Good morning, afternoon, and evening to all you Z1 fans out there. And if you have not yet tried out the Z1 software, hopefully you will, and become a fan. So please download it. The link is below. In this video, we're going to talk about the Z1 Designer version 2021.4 and some of the new features that are incorporated into that to make it easier to design your dashboards. The Z1 Designer is all about creating or modifying dashboards for use in the Z1 dashboard. And the easier it is to do this, the faster it is to do this, the better it is for all of you out there. So let's get started and see what's new in this release to make things easier to work with when you are creating your dashboards. Okay, so here we are in the Z1 Designer. We've got a dashboard loaded up that we're working on, and we're going to go over what's been added in this version to make things easier. So first up is rulers. So as you can see here, we have a ruler at the top and a ruler on the left side for the pixels. So what this shows you is the number of pixels across and down in your dashboard. And the pixels are defined by here, this width and the height, which is the size that you want to create your dashboard in. So by default, it's 480 by 272, but you can use whatever you like. And as you resize, you notice that the number of pixels in the ruler doesn't change. It's just there to give you a good idea of how many pixels are you using, how wide are things when you're placing objects to make it easier to put things in. If you don't want to see these rulers, you can go to the Edit and uncheck Show Rulers. And you get the same thing without the rulers there. We're going to put them back in though, because I like them and I think they're very useful. So. Next up, another addition to make things easier to see where you are is the cursor position. So here in the top right, you have an X and a Y, and that's the current position of the cursor in your dashboard design as you're going. So right now, it says X is 408, so that's 408 pixels horizontally, and Y is 47, so that's 47 pixels vertically. And there's also a line in the ruler which shows exactly where the cursor is. So as I move left and right, you can see in that top ruler there is a small vertical line moving. So right now it's at the 400. As I move over, it goes to 375 and down to 350, and it keeps going. And the same thing on the left. You have the up and down, the vertical line. So that's at 50 right now, going down to 75, and it moves around with the cursor. So this all makes it easier to see where the cursor is in your dashboard when you're placing objects, just to make it easier to put things where you want them. All right. Next is cursor hints. If I click on an object, you have the bounding box with the 4 vertices that you can move. So in this version, the mouse will actually change. So right now here it's just a pointer, and here it becomes a two-sided arrow, indicating that you can move this particular point in and out. And the same thing here, you can move this one in and out, and the top left and the top right. If you click on something like this, a circle, there's only one vertex, and this also indicates that you can move this in and out. So these hints are just there to help you understand what can be adjusted when you've selected something and you see its bounding box, or in this case, its bounding circle. So I'm going to put this back. And another thing that was added in this version is these coordinates. So you'll notice that at each of the vertexes in a selected object, we now have coordinates. So this says the X and the Y is 191 and 41 for this particular corner, and then here 303 and 41 for this corner, and 191, 171, and 303, 179, sorry. So these are the same numbers that appear here in your box XY positions, but they just are right on your design screen, and they're in the bounding box to make it easier to see. And if you choose something like this, which is a circle, you have the center of the circle and then the radius of it. So these coordinates will be there based on the object you use. If you use a line or a multi-line, you get each of the vertexes of that line. And if it's a circle, you get the radius and the center. And if it's a square, you get the 4 corners. Okay, so let's talk about moving an object. So if I click on an object, I can obviously drag it around to place it wherever I want. So this is great for big movements. But if you want to move things just a few pixels at a time, you can either go on the right here and type in the pixels you want, or you can use the new nudge commands. So if I go to Edit, here we have nudge up, down, left, and right. And I can choose these to move the object 1 pixel at a time. And I can do it from the menu, or I can use any of these key commands, the control and then the arrow keys. So if I just do control up every time I do that, it goes up 1 pixel, and then control down is down a pixel, and left is left a pixel, and right obviously is right a pixel. So these nudge commands allow you to move any object in just 1 pixel in either direction. So it makes it very easy to place things generally and then move them to the exact location you want them to be using these commands. With the idea of moving an object, sometimes you don't want to move an object. So we've introduced object locking. Object locking makes it so that you can't resize or move the object if it's locked. So why would you want to do this? Because sometimes you might click an object and accidentally move it, and you didn't really mean to move it. So to lock an object, you just select the object you're interested in, and then you can do it in a couple of ways. In the object properties, if you go and click on the little padlock icon, it turns red, and then you notice that the vertices are grayed out, so you can't actually move this. So if I go back here and try to move it, nothing will happen, and I cannot drag it or adjust the size of it either. In the layers box, there's also a padlock icon, and it's red here because we locked this. I can choose this, click this here, and to unlock it, move it around. If I click it again, now it's locked again and I can't move it. And if you want, you can lock everything by going to the Edit and then choosing Lock All Objects. So this will lock all your objects, and you'll notice that everything now has a red padlock. So now you can't move anything. And if you want to unlock all of them, just do here and unlock. And now you can again move everything around as you would before. So this is good if you've created several objects, placed them, and you don't want to accidentally move them. You lock what you want, and then you unlock it if you want to move it later. So next, looking at my cheat sheet over here, is guides. So we introduced guides in this, and this design actually has some. So these blue lines here are horizontal and vertical guides. So these are lines which help you to place objects in basically in the same location multiple times. And they only show up in the designer. So even though they're saved with the design, the dashboard ignores them. Obviously, they're not going to show up in your dashboard final design. They're just here to guide you to place objects. So looking at these shift lights, for example, they were placed using a guide. So all I have to do is go, I'll adjust this so it's about the right size, is I move my object up and it snaps to the guide. So it makes it very easy to place them all the exact same height in this case. And any object can snap to a guide. So this one can snap the bottom to this guide or the top. If I make it a little bit smaller here, I can do the right side and the left side. So to determine how quickly an object snaps to a guide, you go here and choose the snap distance. So this is how many pixels away from the guide will make that item attach itself to the guide. So 10 is a good sort of starting point. If you want more, you can go to say 20, and then it will be much farther away when it attaches to the guide. Or you could do a very small number, just say 2, and then it will snap to 2. These lower numbers aren't quite as good because it also means if you push it more than 2 pixels away, it will unattach from the guide. So using 10, you have to push it quite a bit before it starts to move away. So 10 is a good starting point, but you can adjust as you want. So of course, well, how do you create a guide? You basically you have your ruler shown, and then you click on the top ruler and pull down, and a new guide shows up. Or you click on the left ruler and drag over, and a new guide shows up. They all appear here in the layers in the background. That's called vertical and horizontal guides. And you can use them as you would anything else. You can lock them so they can't be moved. You can hide them or show them. And if you want to delete them, you can right click and choose delete. Yeah, you want to delete it. Or you can just drag it out of the way. So if I want to remove this particular guide, I can just drag it up back into the ruler, Same thing with one of these, and back over here, and they'll disappear. So guides are really very useful for placing multiple objects in sort of a linear or in a linear fashion, so that everything is lined up very well. So we've got one more thing to talk about, and that is in the object properties window. So if I look at an object, it shows me all this information here in the properties window. But sometimes your object that you're looking at, for example, this graph, has more information, and depending on the size of your object properties, you might not see all of it. So in the past, you basically had to extend this window down so you could see it all. Now, even with it smaller, we have a scroll bar on the right here. So as you mouse over it, the scroll bar appears, and so now you can use the mouse wheel to scroll down, or just drag it as you would any other scroll bar to see other parts of this object property. So that makes it easier to look at what's in the object properties without having to have the actual object property window itself take up like half your screen. So it's a small thing, but we think it makes the designer easier and sort of more user-friendly, which is the goal with this application. So thanks for watching the video to the end. Please join our Discord channel. It's going to be in the link below. And like and subscribe to the video. And we're going to be doing more videos on some of the new 2021.4 features of the designer, and also the analyzer and the dashboard. So thanks again, and we'll see you in the next video.